When a woman wants you out of her life, these three signs appear. There comes a painful moment in some relationships when your heart starts noticing things your mind is still trying to explain away. The texts feel different. The conversations feel different. The energy feels different. You keep telling yourself everything is fine, but deep down something feels off and you cannot quite ignore it anymore. Most people think a woman leaves your life with a clear goodbye, but that is rarely how it happens. More often, she leaves emotionally before she ever leaves physically. The effort becomes smaller. The warmth becomes weaker. The connection starts feeling one-sided. And because it happens gradually, many men spend months holding on to a version of the relationship that no longer exists. This is Isabella, and today we're talking about the three biggest signs that appear when a woman no longer wants you in her life. These signs can be difficult to accept, but once you understand them, you stop blaming yourself for changes you did not create. You stop chasing a woman who is slowly pulling away, and you start seeing the truth clearly instead of getting trapped in confusion. Before we go any further, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from today? I'd love to see how many different countries and cities are part of this community. The first sign that a woman no longer wants you in her life is that she stops caring about how her actions affect you emotionally. This is usually where the change begins, and it is often the hardest sign to accept because it happens gradually instead of all at once. When a woman genuinely values your presence, your feelings matter to her naturally. She cares if she hurts you. She cares if something she said upset you. Even during disagreements, she still tries to protect the connection because losing it would bother her too. That does not mean she is perfect. It simply means your emotional well-being remains important to her. Now, look at what happens when she starts emotionally checking out. Suddenly, your feelings become an inconvenience instead of a priority. She stops explaining herself. She stops reassuring you. She stops caring whether her actions leave you confused, hurt, or anxious. Conversations that once ended with understanding now end with distance. Questions that once received thoughtful answers now feel ignored or dismissed. This is where many men start blaming themselves. They think they are asking for too much attention, too much communication, too much clarity. But wanting basic care from a woman who claims to value you is not asking for too much. When a woman truly wants you in her life, she makes you feel emotionally safe. When she is slowly leaving, she makes you feel emotionally confused. And confusion is often the first warning sign that the connection is no longer being protected by both people equally. What makes this sign so painful is that she may still be talking to you, still replying to messages, and still showing up occasionally. On the surface, it can look like the relationship is still alive. That is why so many men stay confused for so long. The problem is that they are paying attention to presence instead of investment. A woman can be physically present while emotionally absent. She can answer your text without truly caring about the conversation. She can spend time with you without feeling connected to you. And when that happens, you begin noticing small changes that are difficult to explain, but impossible to ignore. You find yourself replaying conversations in your head. You start wondering why simple interactions leave you feeling empty instead of reassured. You notice that you are carrying more of the emotional weight than before. The relationship starts feeling like something you have to maintain by yourself. And here's something important most men never talk about. Women protect what they genuinely value. If she values a friendship, she protects it. If she values a relationship, she protects it. If she values your presence, she protects the connection. So, when a woman repeatedly shows no concern for how her actions affect you emotionally, pay attention. Not to her promises, not to her excuses. Pay attention to the pattern. Because sometimes the clearest sign that a woman no longer wants you in her life is not what she says. It is how little concern she shows when she knows she is hurting you. The second sign appears when she stops making effort to keep the connection alive. Every healthy relationship, whether it is romantic or platonic, survives because two people continue choosing it. Feelings may start a connection, but effort is what keeps it alive over time. At first, the changes are usually small. Replies become shorter. Conversations become drier. Plans get cancelled more often. The enthusiasm disappears. You start noticing that you are always the one reaching out first. You are the one checking in. You are the one trying to keep conversations going. You are the one making plans. And without realizing it, the relationship slowly turns into something that depends almost entirely on your effort. This is where many men get trapped emotionally. They tell themselves she is busy. They tell themselves life is stressful. They tell themselves things will get better soon. And sometimes that is true. But there is a difference between a woman being temporarily overwhelmed and a woman no longer investing in the connection. One still looks for ways to stay connected despite the challenges. The other slowly stops trying altogether. Pay attention to that difference. Because a woman who truly wants you in her life may not always have unlimited time, but she will usually find some way to show you that you still matter. Effort may change. The desire to stay connected usually does not. What makes this sign particularly dangerous is that many men spend months convincing themselves that nothing is wrong because she has not officially left. There has been no breakup conversation, no dramatic argument, no clear ending. Because of that, they keep holding on to hope, believing that if they try a little harder, love a little harder, communicate a little better, things will somehow return to the way they used to be. The problem is that relationships cannot survive on one person's effort forever. At some point, you have to stop looking at what a woman says and start looking at what she consistently does. A woman who genuinely wants you in her life will usually find ways to maintain the connection even during difficult seasons. She may be busy, stressed, overwhelmed, or distracted by life, but you will still feel her desire to stay connected. You will still feel her effort somewhere beneath the chaos. When a woman no longer wants the relationship, the opposite starts happening. The connection begins feeling like a responsibility instead of a priority. Conversations feel forced. Time together feels optional. You slowly become the only person carrying the emotional weight while she contributes less and less. That is why one of the most painful realizations in life is discovering that if you stopped reaching out completely, the relationship would disappear with you. Not because there was a fight, not because there was betrayal, but because she quietly stopped fighting for it a long time ago. The third sign appears when she stops including you in her future. This is one of the clearest indicators that a woman is emotionally pulling away, because the future is where people reveal what they truly intend to keep in their lives. When a woman values you deeply, she naturally imagines you being part of what comes next. She talks about future plans, future experiences, future goals, and future moments without even thinking about it. Your presence becomes built into the picture she has of her life. Pay attention to how a woman speaks. A woman who wants you in her life often uses language like we, us, and our. She talks about things happening next month, next season, next year, and she naturally assumes you will still be there. But when she begins emotionally withdrawing, that language slowly changes. The future becomes less certain. Plans become vague. Conversations stop moving forward. Instead of building a future with you, she starts building one around herself. This change is subtle, which is why many men miss it. They focus on what she still says today while ignoring what she no longer says about tomorrow. Yet the absence of future thinking often tells a deeper story than words ever could. Because when a woman stops seeing you in her future, she usually started leaving emotionally long before she ever leaves physically. And that shift changes the entire direction of the relationship, whether it is acknowledged or not. One of the saddest parts about this sign is that many men do not notice it until much later, because they are paying attention to the relationship that exists today instead of the direction the relationship is moving tomorrow. They hear the occasional message, see the occasional effort, and convince themselves that everything is still intact. Meanwhile, she has quietly stopped building a future that includes them. Think about how relationships grow naturally when two people are emotionally invested. They make plans. They talk about experiences they want to share. They discuss events months away. They imagine where the connection might lead. None of this feels forced, because when a woman genuinely wants you in her life, her mind automatically makes room for you in the future. When that changes, something important has shifted emotionally. The conversations stop moving forward and start living only in the present. You notice that future plans become uncertain, postponed, or avoided altogether. Whenever tomorrow comes up, you feel hesitation instead of excitement. You feel distance instead of anticipation. What makes this so painful is that women rarely announce it directly. Very few women will sit down and say, "I no longer see you in my future." Instead, they reveal it through their actions. They stop building. They stop planning. They stop creating shared experiences that move the relationship forward. And when a woman stops inviting you into her future, it often means she has already started creating one without you in it. There is something important I want you to understand before we continue. None of these signs by themselves automatically mean a relationship is over. Women go through stressful seasons. They get overwhelmed. They become distracted. Life sometimes pulls people in different directions temporarily. That is why you should never judge a relationship based on one bad week, one difficult conversation, or one period of emotional distance. What matters is the pattern. A healthy relationship can survive temporary distance because the foundation is still there. The care is still there. The desire to reconnect is still there. Even when communication becomes difficult, both people continue looking for ways to protect the connection because losing it would genuinely hurt them. Emotional withdrawal feels different. Instead of temporary distance, you start noticing a gradual disappearance of care, effort, and investment. The relationship begins surviving entirely on your hope, your patience, your understanding, and your willingness to keep carrying it. Meanwhile, she slowly becomes more comfortable receiving than contributing. This is where many men exhaust themselves emotionally because they keep trying to revive something she is no longer helping them maintain. They continue giving more attention, more understanding, more chances, and more energy while ignoring the fact that relationships are supposed to be built by two people. The painful reality is that one person can start a relationship, but one person can never sustain it forever. At some point, mutual effort becomes the difference between a relationship that survives and one that slowly fades away. The hardest part about realizing a woman no longer wants you in her life is accepting that love cannot be forced, negotiated, or earned through suffering. Many men spend months, sometimes years, believing that if they are patient enough, understanding enough, loyal enough, or forgiving enough, she will eventually return to the way she once was. That belief keeps men trapped. They keep explaining away behavior that would have hurt them months ago. They keep lowering their standards to preserve a connection that is already slipping away. They keep waiting for effort that never arrives because they are attached to memories instead of reality. The relationship becomes less about what is happening now and more about what used to happen before everything changed. This is why emotional withdrawal can be so confusing. You are not grieving the relationship that exists today. You are grieving the relationship you thought you still had. You are grieving the future you imagined, the version of the woman you fell in love with, and the connection that once felt safe and certain. What makes healing possible is recognizing the truth instead of fighting it. The moment you stop chasing a woman who is moving away from you emotionally, you create space to see things clearly. You stop measuring your worth by her effort. You stop blaming yourself for changes you did not cause, and you begin understanding something important. Your value does not decrease simply because she stopped appreciating it. So, after everything we talked about today, I want you to remember something carefully. When a woman wants you in her life, you rarely have to spend every day questioning your importance to her. You do not have to constantly decode mixed signals, wonder where you stand, or carry the entire relationship by yourself. Real connections are not perfect, but they do contain something incredibly important: mutual effort. The moment a woman starts caring less about your feelings, stops investing in the connection, and no longer includes you in her future, you have to pay attention to what her actions are telling you. Not because you should immediately walk away, but because reality becomes easier to accept when you stop arguing with the evidence in front of you. One of the biggest mistakes men make is trying to hold on to a woman who has already let go emotionally. They keep chasing clarity from a person who has stopped communicating honestly through effort. They keep searching for old feelings in a relationship that has already changed, and in the process they lose themselves. If these signs appear in your relationship, do not panic, but do not ignore them either. Respect yourself enough to see the truth clearly, because the right woman may not always be perfect, but she will never repeatedly make you feel unwanted for simply loving her sincerely. Before you go, I want to ask you something. Which of these three signs do you think hurts the most when it happens? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy these conversations about relationships, female psychology, emotional intelligence, and human behavior, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications because the next video may help you understand something that changes the way you see people forever.